Hello, everyone. It's time for, I would say weekend update, but this time, instead of the format I've been doing these past few videos where I just read through the MMO news like it's an audiobook, we're just going to do a Q&A of some of the questions y'all have been asking me lately, and I would like to go ahead and address. If you would like to ask a question in the comments, I might answer it in the next video. So let's go ahead and start with the first point I'd like to address. Chrono Odyssey business model. This is not a question y'all have asked me. It's something I feel like I need to clarify based off things I've said in my previous videos and or things I've written for y'all. I've said in the past that I think it's buy to play, but I'm not sure. And what I mean by that is, yes, Cacao and them have said that it'll be buy to play, and subsequently, other people have been saying it's buy to play. But for all we know, they could just yank the rug out from underneath us, which sucks if you're not a floating head. And then they could just say, oh, it's not going to be buy to play, it'll be free to play. So that's what I mean when I say I don't know. I'm assuming they're going to stick to the buy to play option, but there is a chance they'll just change their minds at the last minute and say it'll be free to play. In fact, if we look at the Steam page right now, there's not even a box price listed for what the buy to play will be. So I just want to clarify that. Next, we're going to talk about another question I was asked: how to help around the ESO guild. that's that's not a. It's easy, but it's easy but hard to answer at the same time. So a lot of guilds in ESO that essentially thrive and mandate on activity are trade guilds, but I've always been opposed to being a trade guild because I don't want to make anybody pay to be a part of the guild. There are there are things you can do, like capture something in Cyrodiil. It doesn't matter what campaign, doesn't matter what type of resource it is. You could just go in and capture something. But even then, I just think to myself, how long is it going to be until someone else takes it? Or even while we do have it, how much of an impact is it going to even have on us? It'll probably have like a very minuscule amount of help, or just doesn't really do anything at all. At least from what I've seen. So that's possible, but it doesn't really do much. Recruiting does help. I'm actually paying people to recruit right now. 50,000 ESO gold per person. That stays for 7+ days. Um, and then another factor we have to consider is today is June 1st, so tomorrow, June 2nd, we're gonna have a major content update for ESO. So this could, this could change the guild system in this update, or it could be in a later update. But I've heard we've seen ZeniMax post that they do plan to make changes to the guild system in 2025. So I'd say the best way to help the ESO guild right now is to recruit and try to bring new people into the guild, and then there's also like dungeons, trials, things, battlegrounds, uh, things like that. Open world, you name it. If y'all can do it together, I'll do what I can to help y'all. Okay, so yeah, recruiting, and I'd say recruiting, PVE group content, and try to socialize with each other. But that's not specific to the ESO guild, of course. That's just overall. So now we're going to talk about the next point. There are two types of guilds on Throne and Liberty, from what I've seen. There are the guilds who are at the very top, and then they essentially force their members to get so much done, like increase their activity points, increase their score to subsequently increase their own guild's ranking. And though I'm not a part of those guilds, I feel like they care more about their numbers than they care about the well-being of their members, the social relationships with their members. I mean, Again, I'm not part of those guilds. I haven't seen that, but let's be real. So then you have those guilds that are high up at the top, and then you have those guilds all the way at the very bottom who have they just recruit people, and then that's it. They have no goals in mind. They have no plans. That's just like, we're just gonna recruit people and then do whatever. And I have done what I can to try to balance this out. I've tried to have goals in mind, like guild raids and group content, dynamic world events, or basically, the guild contract stuff. But I don't force people to play as much as possible. I try to talk to the people and try to find a balance between Throne and Liberty and real life and being a part of the guild. I don't want to force people to play the game constantly, just like no life the game. But I don't want people to slack off either. I expect you to, at minimum, make your fair share of contributions as we head towards any goal or goals we have as we go forward. So I've tried to find a balance. So now for the next question: why don't I participate or organize group content? So that is, it's true, but it's false. I mean, just yesterday I was doing what y'all see me do in Throne and Liberty? I was doing Shadowed Crypt with y'all for the guild contract. I was doing mana wastes when we were trying to stop the mana frenzy for the guild contract. So I was trying to get y'all to go up to the mana wastes with me to do the guild contract. So I do things like that, but I don't typically participate in like dungeons or trials in ESO, or I do try to I've tried to organize guild raids sometimes in Throne and Liberty, but I'm just doing that as a placeholder till someone else can just fill in and do that for me, because I essentially just do a lot of other things around the guild besides actually play the game with y'all. So here's a chart to help you understand. So here's me, the floating head in the center, and then I talk to other guild masters and server admins to think about, like, if whether or not we want alliance going, whether I reach out to them or they reach out to me. I'm essentially the central communication person. So, like, if another guild on Throne of Liberty wants an alliance, we could try to get that going, and we'll see whether or not we want to do that, or if there's, of course, I have my fair share of allies, both official and unofficial, in other Discord gaming communities, and we'll see if maybe there's a game that we want to collaborate and play together. Maybe there's a game that they want to play that I don't want to play, but I'm willing to endorse them, or vice versa. We have the strays, like just random people who message me and say they want to join Taste the Poison. And of course, I'm the only person they're going to have to contact or know to contact, so I have to be available for that. There's also, like, basically any kind of MMO news, so things like ESO news, PAX Day news, Throne of Liberty news, Blade and Soul Neo news, and any MMOs that are upcoming that we are or potentially are interested in playing, like the aforementioned Chrono Odyssey. So I'll have to pay attention to that. If there's when y'all might remember when the original Blue Protocol was announced for its global release to shut down, I had to be aware of that so that I could tell everybody else that, hey, we're not going to expand a Chrono Odyssey, or we're not going to expand a Blue Protocol anymore. Drama, yeah. If someone acts up, or does something that they're not supposed to do, I have to be the one to deal with that. There was a time recently on ESO when someone used a name that was racist against Argonians, and I gave them a chance to explain themselves, but after 24 plus hours of them not replying, I just kicked them out. I really don't tolerate racism. Daily chores, yeah. that's another one. Like, right, it could be like on Blade and Steel Neo right now, where I'm logging in to collect the daily rewards and maybe do the Crimson Legion dailies. That there's also on ESO. There's the Ritz and going to the Dragon Guard Sanctum and collecting the Dragon Guard chest every day. And then on Throne of Liberty, it's like, you hit escape, click on Battle Pass, and see what you have to what's available every single day. I'd say, well, okay, actually, I realize now that I wrote just daily chores, but that also applies to weekly chores. But I think y'all can see where I'm going with the daily chores, weekly chores thing. So that's me as a person. I have to do that myself. And then another thing I have to do is like content creation. So if you're watching this video right now, this video is of course a piece of content that I personally create. And of course, who runs my YouTube channel? How many people can run my YouTube channel? One person, and that is me. So I have to be the one to do that. And between all this stuff that I have to be the one to do, I don't really have time to go out there and just run all this stuff with y'all. I'm only one person. But, this is a guild. Other people can also do things like run PvE or run PvP, any kind of group content stuff. So that's not something that I specifically have to be the one to do. So I try to delegate that task to other people. And then now we're going to talk about some of the upcoming MMOs that people have talked to me about, tried to convince me to play. I'm just like, eh. So the first one we're going to talk about is Dune Awakening. I think to myself, and if you've chatted with me, you know what I think about Dune Awakening. First of all, you can get eaten by a giant sandworm, and then your base in, okay, I'm not the best with Dune Awakening stuff, but like the deep desert? You can lose you are 100% guaranteed to lose your base every single week in the deep desert, and then you'll have to rebuild it. And now I've heard from content creators like Lazy Peon, whatever, that you can save the schematic, the design, and then just grab the mats, and you can very easily rebuild your base. But if I know MMO players like I do, I know that people are just going to feel burn out on that just very quick. Well, okay, maybe not very quickly, but eventually, some sooner than others, they're just going to get burnt out on just having to rebuild their base every week. They're going to get burnt out on having all their gear and their entire inventory get eaten by a giant sandworm. And then, I see there's going to be, organized PvP. Well, I feel like when I heard about that organized PvP, I just think to myself, that is going to require a lot more communication, activity, and participation than the average MMO player is going to be willing to put in. Now, Dune Awakening, last I heard, it's coming out on June 10th. And honestly, we will see how it does. I mean, I personally hope it does well, even though I have no intention of playing it. But I just see the player base, see how much effort they have to put in, instantly, well, maybe not instantly, but quickly getting burnt out, and then they're just going to quit. And then we'll... That's what I think, though. If you have a different opinion, feel free to tell me in the comments. So then the next one I want to talk about is Blue Protocol Star Resonance, which is based off the original Blue Protocol. I'm not really keen on Blue Protocol Star Resonance. I mean, when I heard that, if you've watched the MMO creator Spid, I saw how Tencent treated him, and Tencent bought Blue Protocol from Bandai Namco, and then Spid was not appreciative of how they treated him when it came to Terrace Land. So then I think to myself, can I really trust Tencent after that? And then I also think to myself, Now, I'm disclaimer. I'm not the biggest, most in the know person when it comes to Blue Protocol Star Resident specifically, but I'm going to assume it was like the original Blue Protocol, and that teams are going to start with 20 people. And I had enough of guilds, clans, teams that are only 20 people after what we saw happen on Blade and Soul Neo. For those of you who've never played Blade and Soul Neo, clans in that game start at 10 and the max they will go is 30 people. And I feel like I've just had it with super small guilds, clans, teams. So those are my personal reasons for not wanting to play Blue Protocol Star Resonance. And then finally we have Crystal of Atlan. I I heard that it was going to be autoplay, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not gonna play that. That's one of my reasons why I didn't want to play Odin Valhalla Rising. When I first heard about Odin Valhalla Rising, it was like I thought I would like it at first, but with like Norse mythology MMO. That sounds really cool on paper. And then I hear things like autoplay, PC, mobile, cross platform. Like, nope, I'm not even gonna bother with that. I feel like I have enough to worry about these days. So I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about. If you would like to ask me a question, you can leave a comment and I might answer it in the next video. Have a corrosively wonderful day, and I'll see y'all in the next video.